All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicolina Astorina. I'm the Director of Alumni Relations. Behind the scenes with me is Rose El-Sadani, the Alumni Coordinator in my office, class of 2016. And I'm here with fellow alumni tonight for a special Thursday Night Live Alumni Podcast edition. We want to connect alumni and students together, and we're so glad you're all here with us this evening. Tonight, you're going to hear an open dialogue conversation between four friends on their Wagner experience, their career and their journey, and their advice towards the Wagner community, both alumni and students. I will guarantee you that tonight you're going to learn so much from our established alumni this evening. And with that, I want to thank our panelists for joining us today and being willing to take the time to chat with our students and alum about their experience. We're really excited to hear from you. And I'm going to introduce our moderator for the evening, Tunde. He is my alumni board member, and I'm really appreciative of you being a moderator this evening. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to you and get this podcast started.
No, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Nicolina. I appreciate it. Everyone, welcome. I would like to introduce our, panelists for today. Really close friends of mine. We all played football together at one point. They clearly were much better athletes than I ever was. So, with that said, I'd definitely like to introduce everyone first with Dom Williams, the class of 2013. Dom was a sociology major at Wagner College. After Wagner transitioned into the professional environment where he was also an NFL player. And now he's transitioned his career from post-NFL. And, through the course of this conversation, you'd be able to learn a lot more about Dom Williams and what he's currently doing. Also, we have Julian Stanford, class of 2012, who was an information systems major during his time at Wagner, who as well transitioned to the professional sports career after. And through this conversation, you'll be able to learn a lot more about Julian's day-to-day and what he's currently up to now. And last but not least, we have Jeremiah Brown as well, who also, during his time at Wagner, is a class of 2012. He was a sociology and education major. Post-Wagner, he transitioned his career into the professional athletic sports world as well. And now he's transitioned into a much different career. And would love to hear a lot more about, what Jeremiah Brown is currently doing as well. So yes, welcome guys. I feel like it's so weird because I'm like texting you guys most of the time. So I have to be all professional. But I think, let's just jump right into it. During your time at Wagner, guys, what was the most difficult part, of campus life, and how did you overcome that, right? Because everyone has different difficulties during your time at Wagner. So, we can start with you, Dom, and we can transition from there to Julian, and from Julian to Jeremiah. So, Dom, you could kick it off.
Oh, all right, cool. The most difficult part for me was a culture shock. Coming from where I came from, I wasn't used to seeing, and excuse me if I'm politically incorrect. I wasn't used to seeing that many white people at one time. You know what I'm saying? And where I came from, I was surrounded by, Black people. So
I hate to be direct, Black people.
Right. So, it opened me up to more cultures. You know what I'm saying? I stopped looking at people like just for what their skin color was or what I saw them as, I started to understand culture behind it. So, the most difficult part for me was literally going there with the mindset that I had coming from where I came from, you know what I mean? And then trying to adjust to what I'm seeing at a college level and trying to fit in a sense, but not too much. Still be myself.
Wow, that's deep. That's deep. I never really thought about it that way. But Julian, what about yourself?
For me, it was, probably the size of the school. I'm sure, many of us have had aspirations to go to the big school, play at the big school on, television, and things of that nature. But, going to Wagner is a pretty small school. So that was definitely an adjustment for me when I first got there. I felt like, was I kind of selling myself short? Is this, potentially making it to the, professional levels? That's still, opportunity. Is that going to come? Are we going to get overlooked? And so just battling those things, those thoughts coming in, and then kind of just settling in, understanding and maximizing the situation and, campus life, starting to learn, make new friends and kind of fall in love with the school, the location, New York City, it's in Staten Island, right across the water, and just really starting to feel comfortable and understanding that, it doesn't matter where you are, it's what you make of it when you get there.
I like that. I like that. No, that's deep. That's deep also. And, I'm going to make sure I circle back to all of this. But what about yourself, Jeremiah? I want to make sure everybody, communicates their experience.
No, I mean, I think the beauty of me going last is it's a culmination of, Dom and Julian. But what I'll say to just add to that point is, for me, I was the guy in high school. I was the number one guy. And, like many, freshmen that are on this call or just freshmen that are in college all throughout the United States, when you come into high school, when you go from high school to college, you're used to being the number one guy. You're used to when the game is on the line, coaches look to you. When I got to college, it was that culture shock, right? It was knowing that I could have played at a higher level because I was recruited to, but being in an environment where I'm no longer the guy was very, very humbling for me. And it was a culture shock because, I just was struggling, to adapt to being just the number on a jersey and having that with my academics. It was extremely difficult. And just that emotional difficulty led me to, becoming on academic probation. And, that kind of spiraled down to a mix of things, but, definitely, no longer being that guy for sure.
So would you say it was like an accumulation of like all these different, new experiences where, you would, as you said, it forced you to end up being on academic probation? And how did you transition off of that?
To be honest with you, surrounding myself with guys like Julian, and this was, and I say just Julian because until Dom got there, Dom was one of those guys as well, hence us being able to get to that level of which we were all blessed to get to. But my freshman year, me and Julian, we went on, we came on our recruiting visit together, right? So when we got there, we were familiar faces, and, just me calling my dad and expressing, him expressing to me how disappointed he was that I was taking advantage of an opportunity to get my education paid for, and that if I was back home, it'd be back home in the projects. And, he was like, you got to change your surroundings, so to me, that just meant surrounding myself with guys like Julian, who, Slim, Beatty, a bunch of dudes.
Oh, yeah.
Tunde, like you was someone who always like set that standard. So it really, for me, was just changing my circle and just being around guys who wanted more for themselves, and outside of ball, because that's essentially all I wanted was ball.
Wow. No, understand. And now, Dom, I know you said it was your first time around so many white people. Like, what would you say was one of the most like impactful lessons you or experience that you had at Wagner, right? Like, what was it? Was it a specific teammate? Was it like a specific class? Or even what class kept you most engaged during your time at Wagner?
Oh well, I thought kind of unpack that question. It was our kicker, David Lopez.
Like, Lopez.
Like I said, we don't know the culture really. We just know what we see, right? So all I knew was what I saw. I wasn't, oblivious to, cultures around different cultures and different race and ethnicities. But, just speaking to David, I didn't know that he wasn't white. You know what I'm saying? But if I look at him, I consider him white. So speaking to him and realizing that where he was from and certain things like that, I was like, oh, I didn't know that. But that was because of the box that I was put in when I was, I was raised. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like you're placed in a box in that neighborhood. They don't really, you don't really get that, the true culture of the world where I'm from. So that's what I felt like I got at Wagner. And one of the classes that really opened me up even more was acting. I took acting classes. I took acting one when I tore my ACL. So I was in there on crutches with a brace and things like that, because it was a classroom that was close to the football field. Now I can go to class and watch practice while I'm on crutches. You know what I'm saying? So
I remember that.
Yeah, I just did it just cause.
So, you know, it's a funny story. I remember this. I think you were telling me that you wrote like poetry, and I was like, wait, like you really get up on stage and like read these things? And I remember I went to like one of these events that you were at. I was like, wow, this guy's really good. Like you were like really good at that. I was like so shocked.
The crazy thing, bro, I thought I was writing raps. But my dad read them one time and said, "That's poetry." You know that, like, that's poetry.
Oh wow!
So when I got to Wagner, I realized, like, okay, this is poetry. You know what I'm saying? Like, I started to read more about it, and I didn't understand it. I thought I was writing. You know, I'm trying to write raps. You know, I'm trying to be, you know, MC Dom or something.
No, MC Dom. My man was out here like Shakespeare part-time, man. Like,
yeah, but
no,
you know,
again,
that it was the acting class that really opened my mind a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was trying to stick to the movies that I knew and that I saw growing up, and they exposed me to, like I said, Shakespeare and things that I would have never read before I went to Wagner.
Man was writing poetry by day, like trucking people at night. What about you, Julian? What would you say, you know, the class or the course that kept you the most engaged during your time at Wagner?
Surprisingly, I'd probably say I took an accounting class. I had a professor, and I think you may have had him as well. He was pretty strict, probably known as one of the most strict professors on campus. And in the beginning of the class, I didn't know what to think of it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do in this class. This guy is really strict. You know, accounting's new to me, finance, all that stuff. But I realized it was a challenge. It was a new challenge for me. And he was very demanding as a professor as far as, you know, understanding and learning the material. And he just treated us as, you know, with such high expectations. And so I kind of looked at that, and that kind of helped change my mindset a little bit. You know, it was a challenge. First time I was faced with a challenge of some of that sort, and I just decided, you know, I'm going to take this head on. And so more so just from a mentality standpoint, it kind of helped me apply the skills that were needed for that class to propel me onto the next, you know, the classes after that, both on, you know, and off the field as well. And I still use, you know, some of those skills and things that I've learned with me today. You know, because you're going to face new challenges regardless, you know, whether you're in your profession, you know, whether you're all different walks of life, you know, so that's something that I took, you know, something small, maybe he didn't intend for it to be that, but that's kind of, you know, how I took it, internalized it, and used it to motivate me, you know, going forward.
Oh, that's big. That's big. Yeah. Isn't it interesting how like, everybody can be in the same class, but everybody gets something different out of that one class, right? So that's really unique.
Right.
That's big. Now, I mean, I'll pose the same question to yourself, JV.
Yeah, man, you know, for me, I'm just getting flashbacks of memories of, you know, me in the same class as Julian. And that day I walked out, went to my advisor and said, "This is not for me." like many, freshmen that come into college, you know, the notion is, you know, when they ask you, what do you want to study? You know, me being a football player, and all I did was identify myself as a football player. If you ask me who is Jeremiah Brown, I was like, oh, I want to take up business, right? And, you know, because business is going to give me a lot of money, right? So if you're a freshman on this call and you're doing the same thing I did, you know, go right now to your advisor and ask her, you know, to, you know, ask you questions to help you figure out what you wanted to do. And that's what my advisor did. And Kristen, she was phenomenal. We all had her.
Yeah, shout out to Kristen.
And, you know, she asked me a question, was like, you know, what do you want to do? And I said, I just want to be around people. And she was like, okay, cool. Well, you know, sociology is the study of people. And for me, you know, not thinking about money, it was like, okay, cool. And then me hearing from my teammates that, yo, sociology, that's an easy A, you know. So once again, you know, I took sociology, not necessarily having a game plan on how I was going to apply sociology to, you know, post football. But I ended up taking sociology with a minor in education, ended up doing a double major, you know, post graduation and graduating with sociology and education. And man, it really changed the game for me and everything that I do and that I'm about. And the impact of that conversation that I had with Kristen, I could have graduated with a degree in business and not necessarily be using it, and I'm closing in on 10 years working for the Department of Education because of that conversation I had with Kristen. So, man, she's a huge part of why I do what I do.
No, that's huge. That's huge, and I think you said something that's like very poignant, that what do you like to do, right? I don't think enough college students spend that time to ask themselves, what do I actually like to do, right? What generates a lot of interest for me. And I'm happy that Kristen asked you that question, and you said, I like to be around people. Something as simple as that, right? You can grow it and evolve it into so many different things. But but yeah, so now, those are good. Those are good like explanations. I think a lot of the Wagner students will be really happy to hear that from you all. And so now you're a senior in college. You're getting ready to go into the professional world. Like, when was that moment that each of you knew for sure that you had a legitimate shot at playing in the NFL? When was that like moment when it came to you? And we'll start with you, Dom.
That moment for me was, I'll never forget it. I was rehabbing from my ACL surgery. Okay. And one of my friends from my hometown was playing for the University of Delaware. And I'm watching him shatter freshman records, go to the national championship. And I said, if he can do it, so can I. And I always challenge myself. He may not even know this, but I made it. I put a picture in my mind like, oh, he told me he was better than me. So I'm about to come off of this ACL and prove him wrong. But it's a friendly competition in my head. And when I watched that Last Dance with Michael Jordan,
he
did the same thing. So I didn't feel bad about doing it.
Is that why you got the baldy now? You want to be like Mike right now?
Well,
that's not why you got it.
We can't deny, bro. Dom, you got that dog and you like Mike, bro.
Yeah.
I'll hold you, bro.
It was just one day,
Dom was a dog.
I remember when Dom was going through his rehab, and he would be at every practice. I was like, bro, it's cold out here. You don't even need to be out here. This guy was watching everything, every snap, every play. Like he was relentless. I was like, man.
Dom was
it's too cold.
Man. Dom was that dude, man. Dom, man, just seeing how you overcame that knee injury, bro. You had that number 2 jersey on, and I'll never forget that day. And you told me, you said, I'm gonna be back stronger than ever. So
he did say that.
So when you fill that hole, you ready? I was like,
right.
Make sure I give a beach.
Yeah.
It's to be the battle, the defense versus Dom.
Oh man, bro! I remember like when they first moved me to linebacker. I went there and it was me and Julian was there too. He goes, "Yo, this guy's CO, man. He does not take it easy." I was like, "What do you mean?" Right. This guy was like trying to run through a wall every play. I was like, "Bro, I don't have time for this, right?" No, but I'm really happy that like it all worked out well, though. But going on to you, Julian. Like, when was that moment when you realized it?
I feel like as many young aspiring athletes coming into college, we all have that vision, right? But the vision became a reality for me. One of my fellow teammates, friends, another student that attended Wagner, Charles Beatty, his brother played in that. He was drafted to the New York Giants, first round, National Football League. And we had to play. We had an opportunity to go to one of the games. And so we're staying at his apartment, the night before. Next day we go to the game. We're sitting in the stands. And after the game, we're standing by, down by where the players come out. And I'm sizing these guys up. I'm looking at him like, dang, like, he ain't that big. Like, he about my size.
Right.
So after seeing that, I'm like, yo, I could do this. And from there, I just remember putting my head down and just telling myself, like, man, I'm going to do whatever I got to do to give myself the best possibility, best opportunity to have a shot. They all know. I would always say, like, man, coming from Wagner, I might not get drafted, but I tell you what, if I get into a camp, I'm not going home And so from there, I just, every day, one day at a time, I set the goal and I kind of worked backwards. And I was like, how can I attain this goal? And one day at a time, win a day, stack the days on top of each other. Before you know it, you stacking weeks, you stacking months, stacking years, and then, success comes. But, it's oftentimes people overlook the process and they just look to the goal, and I feel as though that's where the true value, that's where the true fulfillment lies. It's actually in the process. It's not really the destination. So for me, it was my freshman year after going to that game and just, visualizing and saying like, I'm going to be here.
And that's big too. That's another like really good point, right? Because a lot of student athletes, they forget that, hey, that process is what you're going to get a lot more value out of than like that end game, right? So even like with sports, like, running track, playing football, it's all the lessons and all the experiences I gained from there. I think that helped me become a better professional more than anything else, right? But enough about me though. JB, what about yourself? Like when was that moment for you?
I mean, for me, even just thinking of the process, I never, being very transparent, I wasn't the kid, who grew up in a impoverished neighborhood, watching his mother struggle to pay bills. I didn't necessarily have the dream of making it to the league. I didn't start playing football till I got to high school. So I only had about 8 years up until my senior year of playing football, which is like not common for those who have that dream of playing in the NFL. But to Julian's point, I fell in love with the process. My freshman year of college, we had a strength coach who, he was a good dude. He ended up doing great things, winning the Super Bowl, with the Giants, but he wasn't necessarily what Coach Beach was, to all of us. And, Coach Beach, he really changed my life in terms of just allowing me. Coach Beach was my strength coach, our strength coach for those, that weren't a part of our class. Coach Beach changed my life, and he allowed me to like fall in love with the process. And I'll never forget when it clicked for me was when Coach Beach, after a morning lift, he said, "It's time." And I said, "It's time for what? Like, we just got the lifting. Like, I don't think I got no more in the tank." And he was just like, "It's time, And I was just like, "What you mean?" He's like, "It's time for you to show why you belong at the next level." And I was just like, "The next level," And he was just like, "Yo, there's a scout here from Arizona, and he's coming to, check out you and Julian." And I was just like, "Really?" I thought he was messing with me. And, it was in that moment where, I just remember it was our spring game, and I just tapped into a completely different level of, that dog, that competitor. And from there, it kind of just took off. And, if I can be very transparent with you, Julian Stanford was that dude. You feel me? And my ability, God placing me on the same side of the football as Julian, positioned me. No, I want to say the opposite side, because no one ran to his side. So it allowed me to get a bunch of plays, and as much as my success of it clicking, I'm forever indebted to my brother Julian, because the man is still in the league, and that's because Julian's that dude. Always been.
For sure. I remember when you guys came in as freshmen, I was like, "Who are these freshmen?" Right? And these guys are just like trying to outwork everybody. I was like, "All right, man. Like, these guys are not scared of anything. Like, they were ready to go." Right. But it was a great experience overall. I would say, now transitioning, into your professional career. Well, what are you all up to now? What are you doing? I know Dom, you're doing great work with the Dom Williams Foundation. I know JB, you're working on leads, and Julian, you're working on activities outside of the NFL as well. So each of you, I would love for you guys to provide some like insight as to what it is you all working on right now.
Oh,
so yeah, Dom, you could start.
All right. Well, with the DW Foundation, with everything that I've been doing after playing in the NFL, I literally had in my mind, I want to help myself, right? And I told somebody that it was like, that's kind of selfish, and it's like you have to look at deeper into it. I'm trying to help each level of myself. like the kid who didn't have the opportunity or the exposure to know some of the things I needed to know to go to college. I didn't know what a GPA was when I graduated high school. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, well, what's wrong with, you know, my system back at home? I want to go back home and help that system. So that's when the DW Foundation came into play to help athletes that was just like me, who don't know what they don't know. You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
And then, yeah, man, with players in transition, same thing, same concept, where after I tore my knee in 2018, I just had enough. And I didn't know how to look for a job. I didn't know how to write a resume because I didn't care about that stuff in college. All I cared about was playing in the NFL, to be honest with you. But when it was time for me to step away from the game, I wasn't prepared. So what players in transition is that preparation for athletes for when they get out. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really going to build a platform to help them gauge everything that they need for that transition.
No, that's special. That's special, right? Because you don't. Would you say it's because you don't want people to have that same experience that you had when you were, making that transition post, NFL?
Right, man. Yeah, man. Because it forced me in a dark place. You know what I'm saying? It forced me into a huge depression. And one of the main things that can cause a depression is a lack of finances or a lack of, confidence in doing something. Right. And I just did not know nothing. You know what I'm saying? I felt oblivious to the world. So, we starting it off with the podcast just to get the name familiar, get people familiarized with what we're trying to do.
Yeah, let everybody know about your podcast.
The podcast is dope.
The Players in Transition podcast started off as a conversation. I had this vision in my mind, but I didn't have the name for it. And one day, just talking to my wife, it was just like, oh, players in transition. I want to help players in transition. And I was like, yo, that's dope. and that's where it came about. So I chose, a fellow alumni from Wagner, Edgar Shepard. That's my my daughter's godfather. I just asked him to just, partner with me because I was scared and he could talk. So I was like, bro, help me out with this.
No, for sure. No, that's special stuff right there. What about you, Julian? Outside of the NFL, what are you working on?
There's a couple things I'm working on at the moment. My wife and I, we've started a business, a real estate investment trust, kind of trying to steward and use the funds that we've been fortunate enough to, obtain and change lives. We aspire to purchase property in impoverished areas to help, part of that revitalization process, for affordable income housing for, people like us, at one point in time, and for many others in our community. That's something that means a lot to both of us. And, we've been fortunate enough to be put in a position to do so. So I think that that's a big goal of ours. We talked about it for, some time. And I think now we both decided that it's time. I've been playing in the football, in the NFL, going on my 10th season. We've done, been extremely blessed. And it's time to do on, for others. Another thing that I'm working on, and I do it on a day-to-day basis. I work out with aspiring athletes. So I train with a high school student athlete, as well as a college student athlete transitioning into the CFL. And I kind of try to mentor them, give them any kind of insight, any kind of questions they have, they can bounce off of me, and just try to be that person that, I once had when I was making a transition or trying to make the transition to the next level. I think that, Dom, JB, they're both trying to do things in that, in that space to do so because it's extremely important, both getting there and transitioning to the next phase of life, because playing sports, as we all know, is not forever, So right. Those are, the big things that I've been working on.
That's big. Can't stay away from the gym, can you? That boy can't stay away.
Not these days, man. Not these days. I'm getting a little older in the football world.
Yeah.
Gotta be smart.
So I'm gonna help you get muscles also to play. No, but that's meaningful, man. Especially like on the REIT side, right? On the real estate investment trust. I think that's like amazing work right there. But yeah. How about yourself, JB?
And you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Cool. First and foremost, you know, I mean, there are a lot of things that I'm doing, but I just have to, it's extremely important to me to shout out my team, you know, my wife, you know, my rock, you know, my brother Rashad, and, you know, my close friend Adeline. You know, those individuals are, and many other people, but those are the three individuals who are on the ground doing the work with me. And I mean, the work is, I mean, so much, but you know, I through the grace of God, I just finished with my first book. You know, I just finished my manuscript for my first book. And you know, it just, that process was grueling. You know, I started the process 4 years ago and I was doing it by myself. And you know, I finally said, you know what, like I didn't play football by myself. I didn't become an elite athlete by myself. I always had a coach. And I'm just learning more and more that, you know, not only through, you know, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but you know, I need a coach. You know, I need a coach to help me get to that next level. You know, so you know, my coach got me to the finish line. You know, now, you know, we're in a position to, you know, self-publish the book, or you know, go the publishing route and get a book deal. So, you know, in addition to that, I have my, you know, my company LEAD, which my team that I shouted out, they support me with, and LEAD is an acronym for Leaders Embracing Athletic Dreams. And, you know, it is, you know, very aligned with what Dom is passionate about. You know, in 2012, when I was forced to retire due to injury, you know, my career ended a lot earlier, a lot sooner than Dom and Julian. You know, the doctor telling me that I could never play the game again. And I was lost. Wow. I was hurt. I was, you know, I was even suicidal at certain points, you know, and it was just because I didn't have an identity. You know, I didn't know who I was. So for me, you know, I was like, okay, I read a quote, and the quote is what really shifted my perspective of like, not only working with, you know, collegiate athletes who are transitioning out of professional athletes, but Frederick Douglass said it's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. And that shook me, because I said, you know, when I was younger, no one really took the time to, you know, my parents and coaches, they asked me questions like, what do you want to do? Who do you want to be? You know, but, you know, it's not their fault, but those weren't necessarily the right questions, you know, and for me, it was just really figuring out like, what are the right questions, and working in the Department of Education to the, you know, being a high school athletic director, it really showed me the ins and outs of the education system and where the gaps are, and how I fell in that gap, and how I wasn't alone. So that experience of being in that position is what led to me, you know, founding, you know, my company LEAD. And, you know, it's not even possible without my team. So shout out to my team, because you guys, you know, keep me going.
That's big. I mean, the three of you are doing like really, really impactful special work. You know, that's not just you know, beneficial to the self, right? It's beneficial to society as a whole. So, you know, congrats. Like, I mean, I applaud all three of you. Like, that is very, very like impactful work the three of you are doing. You know, but I'll say we all know like this past year has been really difficult, right? I guess a little over a year now with COVID, right? So I would say, you know, what has your experiences been like over the past year dealing with COVID?
Oh man, I'll go. For me, my wife's been pregnant for the past 2 years.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? You know, my daughter was born last year in the heart of the pandemic, right at the beginning of it, you know, March 27th. So she'll be 1, you know, this Saturday, and my son will be here any day now. So it's like everything has been super cautious with everything that I do. And then the kids being home at the same time. So my wife had 2 kids before we got married, and they're in school. So it's like, how do we have a baby and kids that are home all the time, and we have to work and help them with school? So it's just like, you know, it really forced us to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? It forced us into a bond, backed us up, and it's like, yo, you guys got to figure it out. And it put us into like, what am I looking for? A space, right? It gave us a system to work in the house, period. Our family is structured to a T now. We weren't structured before, but the pandemic forced us to, everybody's on a schedule every single day. We all know where we're going. We all know what we're doing at what time, and the house runs smooth, less stress, and help my baby birth, a beautiful baby girl, and my son is on the way.
Oh no! Congrats on that, man. Congrats,
bro.
That's big.
Congratulations.
That's big. Congrats, no. Yeah. How about you, Julian? Past year, how's it been? With COVID, the season, postseason, everything like that. Like, what has that experience been like?
For me, I'd have to say probably an emotional roller coaster. I'm sure, for many, starting off, being an undrafted, unrestricted free agent going into COVID, kind of shut things down. I'm not sure if some of you are familiar with the process. I'm traveling to visit different teams in hopes to, sign another contract with a team. Well, due to COVID, a lot of that was eliminated. There was a lot of uncertainty on whether there was going to be a season, what things were going to look like. Fast forwarding the last week of training camp, I'm on a workout in Carolina. Things go well. I get signed. Boom. First sight of, a little bit of happiness. Another challenge for me, prior to that is just not being able to see your family. Everyone's kind of unsure, should I go visit so-and-so? Well, my grandmother, she's older. I don't really want to be the person to, maybe pass something on that I don't know that I have, so it's just a lot of different challenges and just things that, nobody could foresee. But then going to the season, COVID testing every single day, COVID testing every day, virtual meetings, not be having that camaraderie with the guys, space in the locker rooms, traveling on separate buses, wearing masks on the plane, traveling, just, a lot of these different challenges that we, nobody could, have envisioned going into this year. But I will say that, blessed to have played another successful season, blessed to have those in good health, be able to spend time with my family, my wife. My wife was fortunate enough to be able to be with me for the entire season for the first time of my career. So that was a huge blessing. And I think now it's a sign of relief a little bit for many, because it seems as though this is behind us, as a country, so. Yeah, but COVID has taken me on a bit of an emotional, roller coaster per se. But I think now, I think we're sitting in a good place.
Good. Yeah, I can imagine that. That definitely does sound like a roller coaster. Between your experience, between Dom's experience. I mean, JB, what about yourself?
Well, first, JU, shout out to them rookies, bro, because they ain't have to go through. You feel me? Bro, that rookie, that camp was brutal. You feel me? So shout out to rookies that didn't have to go through that. But for me, COVID shook me up. It shook everything upside down. My mother was in and out of the hospital, for some time. My father, it impacted, him and his wife, and just a bunch of things that had just really grounded me. It really grounded me to just understanding, what really matters, and there was no money coming in from my company. We had, so much momentum. I was getting booked to speak in different schools all over the country. Things were just clicking, and then COVID hit, and it grounded me. I was moving at 1,000 miles per hour, not necessarily prioritizing. The goal was to be successful and to be more than an athlete, but in doing that, I never slowed down to really focus on what was important. And that was my family. God really slowed things down for me. And the caveat of this pandemic and COVID was, although it impacted me in so many ways, financially, you name it, it allowed me to just grow with my family, right? Like, my son he's turned 4. He's in between 4 and 5, and just understanding how pivotal this age is for him, and me being there every single day, right? Like when he wakes up, when he goes to sleep, and just being a part of like seeing the transformation. Me and my wife, like if you made it through a pandemic with your significant other, they are the one, right? So, me and my wife, we got closer. We were able to like just connect on a completely different level of, love. And, it really grounded me. I'm so blessed that, now I'm just being more patient with myself. Before COVID, I wanted things instantly. I wanted that instant gratification. And COVID and God was like, yo, you gonna sit down. Like, I'll sit down. We gonna take this slow, because your son and your wife, that's the number one priority, and your family. So, yeah, that's
that's deep. That's deep. Spending that time with your son, it's something that you probably would not usually have, right? So being able to see him day to day, that's special. That's really special. I mean, so now that, we have the vaccinations rolling out, it seems like, as Julian said, it seems to be something that we're starting to put behind us. I mean, we're not completely out of it yet, but, where do you think we go as a society after this, right? Post-COVID, what role do you see Wagner College playing in that? So like, for me, all right, I think of it this way, right? I try to find the silver linings in things, and I say, you know what, COVID did force us to like advance as a society, right? Because now we have things like Zoom where we can, connect with each other, in a more seamless manner, right? I mean, Zoom existed before, but now I think like we can do so much more, regardless of the distance, right? So like, where do each of you think we go from here, like post-COVID?
I think this is something that I looked up too. I wanted, to speak to a group of kids about college. I hope we start to see more affordable colleges, because a lot of people aren't going to go to college when their jobs aren't essential. So you're getting laid off for what you went to college for, to get in debt for, and then only to get out and realize like, oh, if we go into another pandemic, my job isn't essential, so I won't have a job. So I feel like, admissions is going to see a decrease in people trying to go to college, people, trying, signing up to go to college, and you're going to see more people going towards trades. You're going to see more people going towards essential work, so that they know that they're protected if something like this was to ever happen again. You know what I'm saying? Sure. And what colleges are going to have to do, they're going to have to adjust to that. They're going to have to, lower that tuition and help people out, because they're not protected. You know what I'm saying? Even though like student loans like let you stop paying for a certain amount of time, you still have to pay it on the back end.
Correct.
Like,
Correct.
And then find another job. You know what I'm saying? So it's like people are thinking now, like, okay, does it make sense for me to go to college? Is it going to help me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I have a whole tangent about that. I want to.
Oh, where you go, Tunde?
Lost
his phone dog.
I think we lost Tunde for a second, but we'll give him a minute to hop back on. It happens, technical difficulties. I'm loving all the conversations. I feel like I wanted to jump in here. Yeah, I mean, you guys could feel free to keep talking and responding to that.
No, you was talking facts, bro. Like that's definitely, a conversation that I've had with, the students that I work with, and, just my staff, of just getting them to understand that, the status quo of pushing kids to and through college. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that sounds really good. But just based on what just happened to the world, is that, should that be the just center of, conversation or the focus, because you're absolutely right, bro. So yeah, that's heavy.
Yeah.
Yep. I do want to add though, I feel like college, I know we're talking about what jobs and careers we may, embark on after college, but I'm sure we can all agree that college helped us grow.
Right.
as individuals. It helped us learn a lot about ourselves, being around new people and a new, Dom, you said a new culture, new atmosphere. You're learning new things about just, to some, simple things. And so I don't want, the next generation to not be able to do as such. So I do hope that there becomes some kind of normalcy back on these campuses, because I think it's just the experience alone for many is unmatched. Also these kids, some kids that are going to college to get out of their impoverished areas. What about those kids? Them being home now, what does the crime rates look like? What are the different, some of them may never have an opportunity to leave this state. So these are all things that you think about just about college. So to me, the life after college, your career, what you do next, those are big, those matter as well, but let's not lose sight of, the in-between as well.
Right. And that's another thing. People have the question. People always say, what I learned in college, I'm not using anyway. And I always say school is a tool, right? It's the process of learning how to process the information, how to research information, process the information, retain it, and then use it. What I'm saying? It's teaching you how to manage your time. It's teaching you how to have social skills. So what you said is correct. All of those intangibles are there, but it's the deep surface things that people aren't looking for. They're just saying, oh, I went to college to get fired during a pandemic because my job isn't essential. You know what I'm saying? So it's a deeper conversation that needs to be had because of that reason of what you said, Julian. Like, yes, college is very important to go to, like, because of the atmosphere and the connections and, it opening you up to so many other things, especially culture. Yes, that's important, but the conversation needs to be had because a lot of people are questioning that institution.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Sir.
Can I
hear you? We can't see you.
Oh, okay. No, yeah. I think like there's something on my end. Again, technology, right? But I would say, it's really good to at least get your perspectives on all of this. Just to close things out before we go into the Q&A session. What are some of the closing statements each of you would like to leave for the audience, right? The current students and other people currently viewing.
All right. Closing statement. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's been my word to people. It's okay. It's okay to feel how you feel. It's okay to get lost sometimes. Calm yourself down and understand, like, you're on a journey. Life is a journey. I read the book, The Alchemist, and it's all about the journey, right? And what you need is already in you. You know what I'm saying? I panicked and went, like I said, went into a deep depression and a whole bunch of other things because I felt like what I needed wasn't available to me. I felt like I didn't know what to do with the rest of my life. And I had to tell myself, yo, it's okay. It's somewhere, you're going to find it, but relax. Just like you found football, you're going to find it. And what I did was I found it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I started to replay my life again. Like, what do I do best? Like, what do I like to do? What do I do best? What do I do without effort? And that's help people. I'm always encouraging people, even at the grocery store. I'm like, yo, you need to get those blueberries because my boy told me about the blueberries. Like, I'm always constantly encouraging people. So I just said, okay, that's a profession. Do that, Dom. Because I really went into a scary panic, depression. Like, I honestly had suicidal thoughts too, JB. You know what I'm saying? So I can relate to where you coming from. And I was afraid to talk about it because I didn't want to come off like, yo, you weak. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you crying for? Like, all you did was get cut, or all you did was tear your knee. Right. Nah, you deal with those emotional, those internal things, and you need somebody to talk to. But tell yourself, yo, because honestly, it's okay. There's another side, like the cliche, like it's always sunny after it rains. It's true.
It is.
you have to understand through the rain that it's okay.
Wow. No, that's wow. That's powerful right there, because I mean, for you and JB to both mention that, just what that experience was like, right? After your professional career. So no, thanks for sharing that. That's something I think a lot of people benefit greatly from. What about you, Julian?
Kind of similar to Dom. My biggest thing is believe in yourself. Believe that you're good enough, believe that you can, and believe that you will, and continuously reassure yourself that I can. Do not allow a situation, a circumstance, a certain individual to determine who you will be in the future. Do not allow that to cause you to lose sight of your goal. We're all going to hit obstacles. Everything isn't going to go as planned. But what do you do when you hit that point? How do you get over that hurdle? How do you get over that obstacle? You fall back on, I believe in myself. I'll find a way. Because if I want it bad enough, I'm going to achieve it. And just carry that with you through life, through school, through classes, on the field, on the court, all different. I apply that to everything still to this day. Everyone's hitting obstacles constantly. Once you get over another hurdle, there's one that's higher in front of you. So just continue to believe in yourself, and sky's the limit.
No, thank you. No, thanks for sharing that. And what about yourself, JB?
I'm over here taking notes. Dom,
we got to record it. We have this recorded. We can watch this again.
But definitely need to go back to the tape, but I'm gonna take a different approach. I definitely want to speak directly to the student athlete that's on this call, the student that's on this call, the individual who they look in the mirror and they don't, when asked who they are, they say that they're a football player. They say that they're a lacrosse player. They say that their identity is attached to what they do, right? So myself, Julian, Olatunde, Dom, we played football, right? We are not football players, right? So like my identity isn't that I'm a football player or a former professional athlete. Yes, that's a part of it, but that's not who I am. So I'm challenging you right now. If you're on this call and you have aspirations to play at the next level, like we were all fortunate enough to do, go for it. Shoot for the stars. Land on the moon, right? Like Julian said, believe in yourself. You can actually do it, right? It is possible. But what I want you also to do is I want you to ask yourself a question. If you're on this call right now and you're not sure who you are outside of the sport that you play, like Dom said, that is okay, right? It is okay. You are conditioned. You have it inside of you to be successful, to reach the stars, to land on the moon, right? But I want you to ask yourself a question. And that question is, what problem do I want to solve in this world? When you solve problems, you add value. When you solve problems, it purpose comes from solving problems, right? So if you're here on this call, like I was back in 2012, like Dom was back in 2018, not sure of who you are, being in that dark place, right? So when we say suicidal, I need you to understand what led to us being suicidal, right? What led to us being in a suicidal space was the idea of looking in the mirror and not knowing what type of problems I could solve. Who am I, right? So I'm challenging you right now to ask yourself that question. What problem in this world do I want to solve? And attach yourself to that problem and solve it, because you have what it takes to solve that problem. And that problem is going to provide purpose in your life, and that purpose is going to lead to profit. So I leave you all with that, because you have it inside you.
Man, that's wow. That hit home. That hit home really hard, man. That's great content right there for people to have. And thank you all for sharing all that. I think people will be, really excited to, employ some of the message that you've, communicated to them in their lives at Wagner right now. But yeah, I'd like to jump into some, Q&A that, people have been, waiting to ask questions throughout this discussion. I think the first probably comes from Sadiq. Hey, what's up? So Sadiq played with us also. He's a great friend. But his question here states that, data shows that only 3.8% of draft eligible Division I players were chosen in the 2019 NFL draft. And and basically splitting this calculation into subdivision at 6.8 for the FBS players, as compared to 0.4% of FCS players like ourselves, former players, I should say. He says he shares this data to say, you guys were able to achieve a dream some might say is unattainable. What advice do you all have for any dreamer who aspires to be more than just the expectation?
Man, Julian said it best. First you got to believe in yourself, like totally believe in yourself without a seed of doubt. I remember when I first came to Wagner and sat at the table with a couple of y'all, and I was like, why are you here? Like, right. I was like, yo, I'm gonna go to the NFL from anywhere. There was never a doubt in my mind that I was going to go to the NFL because I believed in myself, one, but I put the work in. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I was going to work no matter what. I was going to, like you said, and I love what you said, Julian, is stack the days. And I was stacking hours and hours and hours of focus on getting to the NFL. You know what I'm saying? And within that process, I realized that I can do anything I put my mind to. You know what I'm saying? And so I'd say to anybody that has a goal that seems too far-fetched, like that, it's just out there, it's attainable. If anybody can do it, you can. You know what I'm saying? I look at, same thing with Julian. Again, Julian, you said some great things. Like, you go to the NFL, go to an NFL game, or just look at the NFL guys and start, going down the roster. I used to go down the roster and check all the running backs' height, and a lot of them was the same height as me. So I'm like, oh, if they can do it, I can too. What's stopping me? What's separating me from them?
Oh, that's big. That's big. And I would say this other question, it's probably I guess somebody probably it resonated well with someone. When you mentioned being at a predominantly white institution, Dom, somebody wanted to ask, and this is actually coming from Coach Hall. I know Coach Hall, I was supposed to play for him, and I graduated though. But how did you adjust being at a predominantly white institution? What was that adaptation like for you? And you can be very transparent here too.
All right, yeah, I will.
Thank you.
At first, it was a slow process. I had to unlearn what I thought was, the way, what I'm saying, how I saw, different cultures. And I really just started to humble myself and receive what I was seeing. You know what I'm saying? And ask the necessary questions, like, how was it growing up where you're from? And that's the question that goes far, because they start to tell you things that, we didn't have that in my hometown, or we didn't do that in my house. My mom didn't put me on her credit card to build my credit. Most of the time, around, from our culture, your parents are opening up, or somebody's opening up a credit card in your name because they're struggling, not to put you on their credit card to build your credit. So when you're 18, you have a 750 credit score. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, whoa, people do that? You can do that? And then it was like, I really got intrigued by what other people were doing in their household, so that when I became a father, I know they did that and they did this and we did that. I know what's going to help me grow my family and grow my empire, basically. So,
okay, no, that's powerful.
Yeah. So it's just questioning and really embracing that relationship. That's what it was. You know what I'm saying? It was just, we cool. Just because I'm Black doesn't mean anything. I'm not scared. It's like, I'm a good guy. You know me.
No, that's funny. That's a good way to close that out. We have a few other questions. So we have two questions, and they're both related to mental health. So I think Dom,
hey, Tunde, I wanted to say one thing that was on my mind. I was listening to as Dom was talking about the setting goals. If your goal isn't big enough to the point where it does scare you, dream bigger. If your goal isn't to the point where it scares you, dream bigger.
Right.
You should be, anything is possible. set, like Jeremiah says, set a goal and land on the moon.
Yep.
But don't cap yourself on what you can do. Sometimes we use the term, I'm just being realistic. Well, what does that even mean?
Ooh.
What does that mean?
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? Be realistic and think, I'm going to be the next Elon Musk, if that's what you want to do. Because that's what he was thinking. People were looking at him crazy. People still look at him crazy. They laugh at him. They talk about him. And he's just living out his dream. So why can't that be you?
That is true.
That's powerful, bro. And to that question, I definitely want you guys to understand. In addition to what Julian just said, don't focus solely on the prize of like getting to that next level. Because for me, it was a little bit different, when like me going to an NFL game. I'm speaking to the individual right now who may not believe in themselves, right? So when I was at the NFL game, I didn't necessarily believe I could go there, right? So Julian, I appreciate you because you're talking to someone today, right? Because if I was in this room, I needed to hear that I needed to believe in myself, right? I was that kid at the NFL game, like I can't play at this level, right? But what it did for me was what got me to that level was me falling in love with the process and not the prize. Right? Like I think oftentimes, especially our youth, they focus so much on the prize of getting a scholarship, the prize of playing in the league, that they overlook the process. The process is what gets you to the prize, right? So I just want you guys to always understand that the process is what got us to graduation. The process is what got us to signing $1 million contract. The process is what got us to, providing for our families, right? It's the process. The process is what gets you to the prize.
Wow. No, thank you. No, thank you. Wow, that resonates well, because I do remember having a similar type experience. And this was probably my junior year. Julian, not sure if you remember Coach Todd. Yeah, he was like, he comes to me and he goes, "What do you want to do after this?" I already had my mind set. I was like, listen, I'm just gonna go work at this corporation. I'm gonna climb the corporate ladder. I already have my game plan. You don't want to play at the next level. I was like, I mean, I would love to, but it's not my number one priority. He looked at me like I had like 4 heads or something. But again, though, it's like if you already have that set in your mind as to what it is that you want to do, right? You just need to have absolute focus on it and completely believe in yourself, right? You can't let anybody else scream and say, hey, no, you're not good enough for this, right? So no, thanks for sharing that. I almost forgot I had that whole experience as well. We have 2 other questions here, and they're both fairly similar. One's from Josh Thompson and another from Elena Buttrin, and it's more so related to mental health. What advice do you have for college students on the importance on maintaining one's mental health, especially dealing in like such a competitive sport, right? And especially for men, it's taboo to express their thoughts and feelings, and very often mental health issues are overlooked. How can you foster an environment that supports not only physical but mental health at Wagner College?
Yeah, I'm gonna push the conversation a little bit, Sunday, and say, for our women as well. Our women is definitely difficult for the mental health as well. So I definitely, just want to give my female student athletes some love on that, because it's extremely important that we all prioritize our, mental health. And I know for myself, it's something that I didn't necessarily, prioritize. It wasn't really a part of my preparation, right? I should say, I think for me, my process was I need to come downhill and I need to make this play, right? And me making this play is going to position me to get to that next level, position my team to win the game and compete at a high level, but I never prioritize, affirmations, right? Like
that's big.
Speaking to myself in the manner in which I needed to. I spent so much time telling myself what I could not do, as opposed to like who or what I could do. And then I would also say too, no one necessarily taught me how to, speak to myself. No one necessarily taught, like, my whole life, coaches told me, like, you know, football is going to give you all of these skills and it's going to, you know, make you, you know, so successful. But when I graduated, everybody that didn't play ball was on the up and up, you know, and me, I'm like, why is it, you know, like what happened? And it was really because of, you know, not necessarily taking care of my mental health and understanding that I am not a football player, right? I am more than that. So, you know, I mean, I can go on and on about that, but yeah, that mental health piece is, man, it's again.
Yeah. You know, and no, I agree with you. That's huge. I remember, you know, we spoke often, you know, after, you know, you were done with sports and everything. So, no, that's big. And Dom, I think, you know, both your message as well as JB's message has resonated so well. We're getting a lot of questions regarding mental health. And also, I think, well, like for you, Julian, like, would you say you're prepared on the mental health side for life post NFL, right? And how do you plan to, you know, go about that?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, Dom, you mentioned, you know, athletes in transition, you know, things of that sort to me, you know, speak most when you're talking about transition. I think the biggest thing is just being okay with sometimes maybe not being okay and not knowing, you know, being okay with, you know, finding somebody that you trust, you can confide in and just express yourself, you know, let it out sometimes. I feel like, you know, sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves, we don't want to be looked at and viewed in a certain way, you know, to find out that, you know, a lot of other people are dealing with the same issues that we're dealing with. You know, we brush it under the rug until we get to a point, you know, the breaking point. So just expressing yourself, having these conversations, you know, it's okay that you may not know something, or you may not know where you want to go today, but you'll figure it out. You know, just being okay with and having enough courage to just do so. So for me, you know, I'm not at that point where have officially transitioned out of the NFL. And I believe that it will be challenging. And, you know, I constantly am meeting with people, talking to people who have transitioned out even at this date, because, you know, I'm heading into, you know, hopefully I'll be blessed to play my 10th season, but who knows? You know, and in the back of my mind throughout my entire career, being an undrafted player from, you know, player from Wagner College, that's always been my, you know, a thought of mine is, if things ended today, what would you do?
Yeah.
You know, and so I constantly ask myself that question, and I constantly am in thought of such, and I live my life in that way as well. You know, my wife, sometimes she's on me, you know, well, we could do this, we could do that. And, you know, it's just, if things end today, I don't want to be a statistic, you know?
Correct.
So.
Absolutely, man.
That's,
you know,
that's the trigger word. Statistic. You know what I mean? Like that word right there. Dang. I don't even want to.
I know where you're going.
That's what led to the suicidal thoughts, right? Like, man, through the grace of God, I'm so blessed. Let me back up, right? I did have suicidal thoughts. I no longer have the suicidal thoughts, right? So I just want to make sure everyone is aware of that. I'm blessed to have an amazing mother and father, wife, like my village, friends have supported me without them even knowing. So I am okay. But that word of being a statistic, it triggered that emotion, because for me, I didn't make forever money, right? I made a couple hundred, like I didn't make forever money, right? So for me, I knew like the number one thing I did not want to be was the former NFL player that has no money and he's back home in the projects, right? Like I did not want to be that, right? So you just triggered something in me, Julian. I don't even want to feel again. Like I don't even want to feel that emotion. But yeah, Dom, I know you got something on your heart, bro.
Oh no, I was going to kind of say something similar. It was that statistic that scared me the most, right? It was that statistic that made me wonder, like, yo, is there going to be a time in my life or a moment in my life where my brain did something that made me want to just go off the deep end? It was a scary moment, because Julian and I were teammates on the Jets when I got my concussion. You know, I felt fine when I got up and was jogging off the field, but I just blacked out and fell flat on my face. And It was like, I popped back up and it's like, yo, is that going to affect me later on in life. You know what I'm saying? And it made me question whether I should still play. I didn't know if I wanted to keep playing, you know, or what. I had crazy headaches for like 2 years straight. And
Wow.
I know you see me with the 1044 Pro shirt. It's a few NFL players and NFL wives that I invested into, like this protein bar and coffee that has like this brain booster in it. And I started to learn different things to help me with, you know, my brain functioning. The brain is a muscle, so you have to exercise it just like you exercise everything else. So I started to do a lot of things to exercise my brain and to treat my brain, like the blueberry shakes, you know what I'm saying, that I got from Julian. So it's like I started to do all of these things to regenerate my brain and treat it better, because we treat it like, you know, crap while we're playing football. We're banging our heads, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, and now I feel better than I ever felt before. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm functioning. I can see words on you know, on a book. Like, whereas before I would have to read under a certain light in order for the words to kind of be visual. You know what I'm saying? They would disappear. When I was that was the scariest moment for me.
Wow. No, that's a lot. That's a lot to unpack there. I would say we have a not a question, but more so a comment. And this is coming from Sadiq. It says, you know, I am inspired by all the experiences you all have shared. This is inspirational. You know, Julian, he says he remembers you having a strong conviction about making it to the NFL. JB, your journey is certainly a beautiful story. And Dom, there's nothing more important than the story of redemption. And he's so inspired by all of you. So no, thanks for sharing your experiences. I guess we have time for another question here. And JB, what is your book about? And thanks for sharing that. So would you like to talk about your book and, you know, what is included in there? What are the topics that it's going to cover?
Yeah,
and this is coming from Tiffany Stanford.
Hey, Tiff, what's up, Seth? Family right there. So the title of my book is The Legacy Leader Within You. And it really just talks about the impact of legacy and leadership. Hence the title of my company is Lead. And what it does is it walks the student and athlete through my life's experiences and how I handled adversity, how I handled just my confidence, how I developed a competitive mindset, and how that all ties into me as a leader and the legacy that I plan to leave on this earth. And what the hopes of my book is to inspire not only the student athlete, but just the child that may be coming from a impoverished environment like myself, maybe coming from an environment where they watched their mother struggle to pay bills, or in a space where they didn't necessarily believe in themselves, like Julian said. You know, this is for that child that may be going through things, for them to understand. And my hope is that through my life and how I was able to overcome these, circumstances and situations, that they can do it themselves, and that they can, reach that star, and put them in a position so that not only do they know who they are outside of the sport that they play, but the impact of their leadership on this world. So, I'm just extremely blessed that, God, pushed me in this space of putting pen to paper and telling my story. And, it is with my, my biggest, prayer that, this book will change lives through my story. So, it really touches on mental health. It touches on, so many different aspects of what it is to be a legacy leader. And, I just can't wait for the world to, get their hands on it. So, this fall, it's coming, to a bookstore near you. Definitely would love, to have everybody's support with getting it to becoming a bestseller. But, I'll leave that up to you on if it's worthy of that.
Okay. No, yeah, and I think we have time for one more question. It looks like Nicolina is giving me the sign that we're going to be on the time. Sorry about that. But so this is, I guess we combined two questions into one. So Julian, you did mention before that there was a specific lesson that you learned in your accounting class that you still carry with you today and you apply it in your life. what was that lesson, right? What did what was that one thing Wagner taught you that you use in the NFL today? And then for current Wagner student athletes, what advice would you give to them as to how they should navigate life on Grimes Hill?
Unpack the first part. The biggest lesson I learned was to have high expectations for myself going into any situation, any class, anything. Because the professor at the time held us to that in those regards. And I felt as though to give myself the best opportunity moving forward, whether it be on the field, off the field, in the classroom, in corporate, just talking to people of everyday life, I need to hold myself to that as such. I feel as though it gives you the best opportunity to succeed. And so I was very grateful for him to hold us in that regard, because like I said, it really didn't have anything to do specifically with accounting. It was just more so the professor himself and the standard that he had set for his classroom. Okay. And repeat the second part of the question.
Yeah, so that second part of the question was more so, for current Wagner student athletes, what advice would you give them as they navigate Grimes Hill and life in general? So I guess that can go to any of you, but feel free to, speak to that.
I would say prioritize, who you are outside of the sport that you play if you're a student athlete. I think that, that is something that I glossed over. And I wasn't alone in glossing over, just figuring out, who is Jeremiah Brown outside of football? And, there's no greater time than in college when you're figuring out who you are and what you like, what you don't like. And if you're someone like me who does not know, what it is that they want to do or become, start with that problem that you want to solve. Start with the things that you don't want to do, right? Like I knew I did not want to become an accountant for the rest of my life, but I knew I wanted to work with people, right? So, start with the things that you don't like, but more than anything, prioritize your mental health and understanding that you are more than an athlete. You are more than an athlete. And my book is going to talk about that too.
Great. So, yeah, and I think we can, wrap this up now. But again, thank you all for definitely, creating a time. I know you all are very busy, especially in times like this. But with COVID and constant Zoom fatigue, so I'm really appreciative of this. And I guess one last comment that we received here was, from Evan. He says, not a question, but he wanted to say blessings to each of you all, and everyone has positive, each of you has positively impacted his life, and he's forever thankful for that. So again, I think sometimes you all might not realize your reach, but continue to, do good work and put positivity out there. It's impacting people in ways that you might not even be able to imagine. So thank you. Yeah, and I guess Nicolina, you can come back in now.
Hi, everyone. This has been so amazing and valuable. I'm seeing all the comments that people are leaving of just how inspired they feel from the conversations you have all had today. And I know I'm feeling the same way as well. So I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for talking with alum. And we have some coaches that joined us and our students. And I think I'm really looking forward to releasing this recording and having people tune in and listen to all the advice that you had to say. So thank you all so much. Tunde, wonderful moderating. You did a great job. I think all of you are just so great. It's been really exciting to hear from you all. And I look forward to doing more podcasts and events like this and hopefully having you all join us again soon. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. And I just want to say,
go ahead.
If anybody has any additional questions, maybe that they didn't want to ask on here, being recorded, feel free to reach out to me via social media, and I'll answer anything as transparent as I can from my personal experience.
Great, that's awesome.
Thank you. And just wanted to follow up one item really quick. Dom, I definitely want to, get on your podcast. You brought up a really good point, and it's something that I'm currently working on. It's related to education and how, the funding for, college education has to change, just like that entire, how education is being administered in this country. And I think it's a topic that I'm currently studying in a graduate school right now on the public policy side. So no, definitely we'll need to connect on that. So no, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, thank you, Julian, for always setting the standard when we was in school. Thank you, Dom, for always being that person to push me to that next level and competing, and getting that dog out of me. And thank you, Tunde, for always being that example. My man, I'm just so blessed and fortunate. I mean, it's an honor to serve alongside you all on this call, as you all have had a major impact on my life, so, thank you for, just allowing me to be on this panel with you guys, because, man, you guys are the real deal. And I appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you. The feeling's mutual. I feel the same way about all three of you. I hold you all in very high regard because I understand just the amount of work you all have put in. So no, thank you for just being the people that you are.
Yeah.
Likewise, for sure. I always say iron sharpens iron, so.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Definitely.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And I'm looking forward to connecting more. And this has been really wonderful. I hope you have a good rest of your night, and looking forward to staying connected. So thank you all so much for this.
Thank
you.
All right.
You all
Bye,
take care.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.